Hey everybody, thanks for joining me as I take a look at another stack of metal CDs, this time focusing on my four most recent black metal purchases. And we're going to start off with this, Exaltation of Cruelty by Satanic Warmaster. This was released in 2024 on Werewolf Records, and it is their seventh and most recent full-length album. So before we go any further, this album is a big step into the past. Because if you observe the last couple releases, especially the prior one, Amon Gondar, this album here had much catchier riffs, much cleaner production, and a greater use of keyboards, accumulating in a much more accessible piece of music. But Werewolf is bringing back the nastiness on this one. And I should actually mention that there is a bonus disc on here, Exaltation of Cruelty, the raw version. And I really was in no rush to check this out. I figured it would just be a rougher version of a already somewhat rough recording. But upon closer look, some of these song titles are not on the real album, so I'm wondering if some of these songs didn't make the cut, and I think I need to invest some time on that disc. Favorite tracks here are Lord of Blood and Darkness, and then probably Exhale, The Vapor of Starlit Tombs. Just kind of doing the thing that I like to hear from Satanic Warmaster, which is a take on the early atmospheric work of Burzum and Darkthrone. Yeah, I got this one at Dead by Dog at the Hell's Headbangers vending area, amongst many other things, including this one here, Let the Devil In by Sargeist, another Finnish black metal band, and they're actually probably two of the 5 biggest Finnish black metal bands. And this is the 3rd full-length album, and they actually just put out their 6th full-length album in 2025, not too long ago. This was initially released on Moribund Records, and this one seems to be released by Tribulation. Don't know much about them. So this is definitely Sargeist's most influential album. Very epic, triumphant, and soaring, and actually somewhat upbeat. The lyrics are just total Satanism, but in a different way. It's not really talking about like evil things. It's not really criticizing Christianity. It's just like talking about the devil from like a religious perspective. Probably a part of the whole Orthodox black metal thing that was going on around this time. Still going on. Was going on before, but you get the drift. And my favorite songs on here are probably the first two, Empire of Suffering and A Spell to Awaken the Temple. I feel they just do the best job of just showing what the album's all about. Just the style of this album in song form right away. But I also really like Twilight Breath of Satan, which is more of like a heavy metal track, which brings to mind Rain Chaos from Dissection. The 2 tracks I'm not crazy about are probably Nocturnal Revelation, which I think is the most boring song on here, and then the title track, Let the Devil In, which just feels way too straightforward and on the nose. But this is definitely upheld as a classic album, and I totally dig it. Next up, we're going to look at some French black metal. This is Merrimack and their debut full-length, Ashes of Purification. So Merrimack formed in 1994, and they're still around to this day with 6 full lengths. And actually, matter of fact, back in the early days of both bands, Sargeist and Merrimack did a split together. Um, yeah, I ran into a bunch of used albums by these guys, so as I think most of us do, I just kind of gravitated towards the earliest album they had, and this is it. There's actually quite a bit of information in the booklet here, so please introduce the basic facts that are known about Merrimack. Merrimack is a black metal band hailing from France and active since 1994. We released our first demo, Act 1, in 1995, followed in 1998 by a split pro demo with Hiralorn on Drakkar Productions, and later in 2001 by a third pro demo, Horns Defeat Thorns, on Black Vault Records. Our first album, Ashes of Purification, has been released in 2022 on American label Elegy Records on CD format. Haven't heard that name in a while. And we also have 2 EPs out, a split with Sargeist on Moribund, and a live 7-inch on Hearst Records. A bit more about the band. Album artwork, Chris Moyen, back then, doing the same kind of thing. And this is definitely solid black metal, but nothing special to my ears. Feels more second wave Norwegian than French to me. And I think my favorite tracks are like tracks 6 through 8. I just found they went a little bit more atmospheric and a little bit more to my taste. And then it's rounded out by 2 live tracks, which sounded pretty good to me. What did the sound come out on? Again, initially released on Elegy Records, but this is a re-release on Nightmare Productions out of Portugal. Finally, Hellrealm, Chaos and Fear and Death. So I saw this on a used CD rack, and I was like, Hellrealm, where have I heard that name? And it did come back to me in the last days of Metal Maniacs magazine. I remember they did have a short article in there. And since I think it was written by Nathan Burke, I definitely paid attention because I was always a fan of his writing. Now, this album here, I'm not really into, but we'll get to that in a minute. It seems to be a one-man project. And his roots were in a band called The Dead Youth. I'm certainly familiar with the name, but don't know much about them. But they were a band from Chicago, and when they split up, it seems that some members went to form Usurper, who are a band I'm totally into, and then a band called Scepter, who I've never really listened to. So the guy behind this band went on to form Scepter, and then after Scepter, he did Hellrealm, and this album is 2007, and that seems to be pretty much the last thing I see that the guys worked on. This is on the number 13 Productions. And what do we have here? So Metal Archives has it listed as black metal with lyrics about like Satan and evil and stuff. And they had 2 reviews on Metal Archives of the debut album, but I can find no reviews whatsoever, whether on Metal Archives or just on Google, of this album. Reviews on the first album seem positive, and maybe that's a different thing, but this here is basically like simple, repetitive riffs at the best of times. Maybe bring to mind Frost or Darkthrone. But like the vocals are very sparse and just drenched in effects. You almost barely notice them. They just kind of, they come and go. I do think there's a real drummer on here. Yeah, it says Session Drums by RC, whoever that is. But yeah, the drums seem kind of simple. They just they don't grab my attention. And again, the guitar is very repetitive to the point where it just kind of sounds like a loop. I'm not saying it is. Like, I'm not a musician. I never recorded anything. But to me, this is what this feels like. I don't know about you, but I was a big fan of Hydra Head Records back in the day. But they definitely released some things that weren't very good. And I just kind of felt like this would be something that was put out on Hydra Head Records by like a post-rock, musician that wanted to have kind of a black metal influenced project, but he just didn't really get it. But just my opinion. Definitely going to try to check out some Scepter and the Dead Youth. Kind of curious about that. But Hellrealm, wasn't really feeling it. Thanks for checking it out, and we'll talk soon.